Hey everybody, Justin back with another weekly Uncut Astrology video. Again, I have two channels. One is for weekly updates, reflecting on how the planets affect you on a personal level, and my secondary update is how the planetary dance is showing up in the world in a more mundane view. So again, welcome back and thank you. This weekend, we have some major players coming into surface, and we're definitely seeing a reaction to that in the world. So one of the biggest players in this game is Uranus in conjunction with the Sun, which moved into Taurus on the 20th. So I have a lot of history with these two planets because Uranus has been over my natal sun for the past year, just shaking things up left and right. So just as an overview, Uranus is disruption, change, shock, sudden events. Uranus is considered the course corrector. It will shake and liberate you if you're off path and off course, and bring you into a different place. It's independence. It is non-conformity. It's innovation. And when it's placed with the Sun, that also could represent the Sun and authority. So many of you might have had a sudden disruption in relationships. I'll talk about that a little bit later in the video. Unexpected loss, unexpected gains, new opportunities. I've had a little bit of everything this week so far. So let's take a look at the charts and see what the greater conversation is for this week. Okay. So, as I've mentioned, we have Uranus and the Sun conjunct. Another player in the game I want to reference to Mars, and Neptune and Venus will be in a square. And the Sun and Uranus will be in square with Saturn. Saturn represents authority, delays, restriction. I mentioned a couple of videos ago when Mars moved into Aquarius and it was instantly met with restriction of Saturn. That would be the beginnings of a buildup of tension in this country. And soon to follow was more restrictions and more liberties being removed from the people. And when I mentioned when Mars ingressed to Aquarius, I said we will see the first signs of civil unrest in this country. And we have started to see that bleed into our lives this past week. Not only are we seeing the people rebel against authority, we are seeing authority rebel against authority. So let's take a look at how that's showing up in our reality. I have a clip here from Facebook, and I just want to share this with you real quickly.
As you can see, I'm here and I just want to personally, could you pull that mic up a little bit? Is that better? Okay. I just want to personally and publicly go on record supporting this resolution before us this evening. You know, guys, it's simple, like a lot of them have said. The Constitution needs no explanation. It's been in force for several hundred years now. It's easy to understand. It says what it means what it says. And the last time I read the Declaration of Independence, it specifically reminds all of us that we're endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, which means God-given. Among these, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And the governments were instituted among men specifically to secure our God-given rights. And it says when government becomes destructive to these ends, meaning when they go above and beyond trying to secure our liberties and trying to take them, it's the right of the people to alter or abolish that government, either by voting or ultimately, God forbid, to use our Second Amendment rights to protect ourselves from tyranny. And I'm just asking all of y'all to unanimously join our sister counties of Wilkes, Surrey, Stokes, Lincoln, and Cherokee and get on board with this thing and publicly demonstrate to us that you're willing to uphold and honor the same oath I took when I put my hand on God's word and held my other hand up to him and swore that I'd give my life to defend that Constitution. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but regardless of what y'all do or don't do, I'm not going to enforce an unconstitutional law. I'm going to protect the people of this county regardless of what's done here. So I'm just praying. I've been praying about this thing all week. And God would touch y'all's heart and say, hey, let's get on board. Let's do the right thing. Let's let these people know that we're here to support them, and we're not going to allocate any personnel, finances, resources, or facilities to infringe on their liberties. Thank you.
Okay, so this wasn't something that was from a fake news article. This isn't just an angry citizen standing up. This is our own localized police force that is coming to grips with a lot of the orders that have come into pass severely go against our civil liberties. And even under martial law, certain statutes will stand. And at the very least, what everyone is asking us to do should be a recommendation. People should not be getting fined or jail time regarding the stay-at-home order and anything else that has to do with this virus. So Sun and Uranus is a rebellion against authority. This week in Italy, the civilians took to the streets to protest mandatory vaccination law. I mean, it's one thing asking us to be withheld in our homes, the inability to secure money and funds to protect our family and feed our family. It's another thing in general to reject our right to consent to what goes in our bodies. I'm happy to see, and as you can see, this isn't violent protests from the photos. This is done peacefully, and even respectfully. Protesters block Meridian Road after playground trespassing arrest. So this occurred here where I live in Idaho. A mother and daughter were on the playground, and the playground is off limits at the time, at least most of the parks I've walked past. And she was arrested for violating the use of park facilities. And the citizens of Meridian took exception to it and peacefully protested in the streets. Again, sudden reaction, sudden breaks with authority. Also in Idaho, there was not a protest on foot, but there was a drive-by protest to the mayor's mansion as a demonstration, calling out for our civil liberties and rights. Even, higher law officials are basically supporting the idea that these stay-at-home orders are unconstitutional. Protesters in Texas and other states demand end to lockdowns day after Trump's liberate tweets. Some states are acting differently than others, but again, you can't forcibly keep us in our homes. And what's getting even a little more disturbing is, like I said, in my past videos, it wasn't just about this virus, even though we know now that the fatality rates rival the seasonal flu. It's all the agendas that are being conducted while we're at home. And I just think there's too many convenient things going on in the world while we're at a house arrest. And that is 5G going up into businesses and schools. Is that considered essential business? Self-driving cars and trucks are being tested. Again, eliminating cab drivers, Uber drivers, and logistical trucking is the backbone of this country. Testing that right now, is that essential business, or is it convenient business because no one could be on the streets? And if these things don't work and they kill somebody on the road, it keeps your hands clean. You can't walk into a mom and pop restaurant, but Subway is open. There's one right down the street. I could go into the building, order a sub, and come right out. So why is that different? Because it's a mega corporation that could be allowed to be open and not a mom and pop organization. It's all of these civil rights and liberties that are being taken away from us. You can't peacefully protest with more than 50 people. That is against the Constitution. Freedom of speech. Facebook remove all content organizing protests against stay-at-home orders. Why don't you stay at home? I mean, this is against free speech. This is also a state Republican for Maine joined a peaceful protest to the governor's mansion in Maine. So this is, again, it's not just the people standing up, it's the people that are all also in a place of authority that are waking up to the extreme government overreach, and they're making a stand. The more and more numbers that come out, the more that we're seeing that these fatality rates are being fluffed. There was a hot mic at the last presidential, I guess what they call it, the pandemic crisis update. And these two reporters were bantering back and forth about how this pandemic isn't what they're being led to believe. And it was a hot mic. It was a live mic during a live stream, and everyone heard it. People talk about, hospitals being overrun, and there's plenty of evidence. I think it's a hashtag Film Your Hospital is going viral on YouTube, and citizens are leaving the house and taking their devices and going to these hospitals and showing they're completely vacant and barren. This is Army's Seattle Field Hospital closes 3 days without treating a single patient. Wow, it looks really overrun in there, doesn't it? There's less going on in there than a strip club right now. Another thing I've noticed this last week, we talk about Uranus and sudden disruptions. Venus is square Neptune right now. And when you talk about Neptune and Venus, Venus is relationships, friendships, one-on-one personal relationships, business relationships. Neptune is illusion, delusion, seeing what you want to see in relationships, rose-colored glasses. And I've noticed myself, I posted that various articles, and a lot of my friends on Facebook started attacking me as if I'm promoting harmful information. I'm simply promoting an alternative view that's not force-fed from the mainstream media, and that contradicts a lot that's going on in the world. And, in this post in particular was about free speech, and it was in regards to some of social media's control. And also, I mentioned this in my last video, I'm not a all in on David Icke, but the fact of the matter is that he had the second largest attended YouTube live stream in the history of YouTube. And he was talking against the virus, and he was talking against 5G. And he had his Facebook, website, and Vimeo all shut down. Is that free speech? Forget about what this virus is and isn't. What are we losing because of it? To be honest with you, I think they're getting used to conditioning us to control. And this is how I know this. I ordered the Sling TV app on my home entertainment, and the reason for that is it was just for me to be able to watch ESPN for a couple of weeks, as I'm from Chicago and I was a big Bulls fan in my earlier days. And there's a great documentary about the Chicago Bulls, and I thought it'd be very nice to watch something to break up the fear porn in the world. Anyways, I haven't had a cable subscription in about 6 years for a reason. And I could not believe how the media is just double downing on commercials. And I wrote this down in order in between commercials. It is the COVID-19, the stay at home hashtag, the home together hashtag, commercials supporting online schools and universities, commercials related to alcohol, beer and hard liquor, commercials linked to prescription medication, which has always been the case, commercials promoting food delivery. And basically what this is, and what I've also noticed, is that they are just replaying the same commercials over and over and over and over and over again. And what all this is conditioning us in the future. And I've been in marketing for 16 years. I know a little bit about production and editing and the amount of advertisements that are out right now. This was not something that was conducted overnight. This probably was in production and improved well before the release of all these stay-at-home orders. And to give you a little further credit, when I was in regional marketing, I attended a conference in Austin, Texas in 2016. It was mainly about the economics of, renting and home purchases and et cetera, et cetera. However, there was a guest speaker that came, and I'll keep the privacy of this individual and the conference for that matter. And he started with an opening statement that ended with, within 5 years, we will all have self-driving cars. And there was a silent hush over the crowd, followed by a little bit of giggling laughter, because in 2016, that seemed so far from our minds that it seemed, it was comical to all of us attending. And when I first heard it, my instinct was like, what does this guy know that we don't? What is this rich guy privileged to that we don't know? And sure enough, roll almost 4 or 5 years later, and they're testing self-driving cars right now. And a part of this 5G network is to supply the technology to run an operation like that. Saturn is in Aquarius, so social distancing is here to stay for at least 3 years, and who knows what it will be beyond that. We're being conditioned to live life like this moving forward. This is the new normal, and this is what they're trying to present to us. And the bigger conversation is the amount of AI and technology being released. Now there's drones that'll be flying above our heads being tested that will be able to take our picture and facial recognition. Well, you want to know why we have to stand 6 feet apart from each other? I'll give you a clue. It's because they'll be able to read our facial recognition from that distance apart clearly. So, I mean, this is what we're being dehumanized. We're not allowed to gather, peacefully be together, congregate. Humanity is losing the human in humanity. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be in a world that we can't see our loved ones. I don't want to be in a world where there's a drone flying above my head, taking my temperature. I don't want to live in a world that has a microchip in my hand and I won't be able to pay for things unless I have this microchip. I don't want to live in a world that has mandatory vaccinations. And right now, I think what's going on is they're seeing what we're willing to deal with. And some of these disruptions on social media, I know a lot of other friends of mine have had not it's going past being attacked, and all we're trying to do is present some alternative information. And I feel like there's an amount of cognitive dissonance here that is just hard to understand. The best thing I could compare it to, in the funnest way in this situation, is, do you remember when you were a child and that feeling you would get on Christmas morning when you knew that there was something magical in the air and Santa Claus brought you your favorite toy? And even the night before, how magical it seemed, like hoping you'd wake up until you might be able to catch him, on the chimney or sneaking in, placing the presents under the tree. Do you remember how real that felt? And how false really was it? People are in too deep. People that have been aligning with themselves with a certain political party, a certain ideology, a certain point of view of the government. Oh, they just can't do that to us. It's not possible. Well, I didn't think it'd be possible for JFK to be shot in the street in broad daylight. I didn't think the rise of Hitler could be possible. I didn't think 9/11 would be possible. But you know what? It happened. I think the problem is that people are in too deep to where they can't face the reality of the situation. I remember how I felt. I was so disillusioned when my mom told me that Santa Claus wasn't real. I didn't believe her. I was like, well, how can that be? How come all these people have lights on their property? How come everyone has a Christmas tree? How come there's Santa Claus movies on every channel around the clock? How can something so unreal feel real? Look around you. Is it more delusional to believe in something that isn't real? Or is it more delusional to question what is real? Um, I'll leave you with this today. Um, so on Tuesday, this situation got really real for myself. I know I've been supplying a lot of articles and astrology to tie in what's really happening in this world. And it's fun to talk about it and make some anecdotes and some interesting banter. You don't really understand how it affects you in your own life. I don't really know anyone that has this going on in their lives, but it affected my world in a big way. And on Tuesday, my mom, she has been feeling well for a couple of weeks. And basically, she called her doctor and described her symptoms. She's been dealing with the shingles, which, flu-like symptoms can come with that. And she was basically diagnosed over the phone that they believed she had this virus. Then she went to see the doctor, demanded a test. And the doctor said, we don't have tests, but based on your symptoms, you have this virus. The reason why I call it virus, I don't want to give it even energy of the name of this stupid thing. And keep in mind, people don't know, my mom was kind of a hypochondriac. So she kind of worries about getting sick. And if people can't see the problem of being diagnosed with something without a test, that's like saying that you have cancer without a biopsy. Like, how does that make any sense? And how does that make sense to what the numbers we're getting on a worldly stage? I'll take another step further. Word got to my sister, and she's really, upset about this. So she reached out to her best friend, and I'll keep her private. Her best friend is the head of ER in a major city that we'll call it a hot zone with coronavirus. And she says, sister, I understand that you're afraid. Don't be. The media is not giving you the facts. We don't have tests. She says we have a small number of tests reserved for elderly and first responders, i.e. EMTs, firefighters, and police. She says no one's being tested. No one is being tested. So where the fuck are all these numbers coming from? So if you have 2 symptoms out of the 10, you're automatically labeled with a virus. Take away every news article I presented, take away the astrology, take away everything I've said these last 2 videos. That right there alone should be enough to lift your freaking eyebrow and be like, what is going on? Because that is wrong. I don't care where it is, what planet, what country, that is wrong. Also, what this head nurse said of the emergency room is that UV rays dissipate the virus. It kills the life of it. Ooh, then an article popped up almost, hours after that conversation. And here's an article: sunlight destroys virus quickly. New government tests fine. Okay, so if ultraviolet sun rays can help this pandemic, why are we not allowed to go outside in the sun? Why are we being arrested so we can't go to the beach? Why are we being arrested on playgrounds and parks if this could heal us? You see the difference? New moon in Taurus this week came in on the 22nd, and new moon in Taurus represents what our values are. I think in isolation, we've learned a lot about what we value. We value security. We value our money. We value our family, our loved ones. We value food. We value extra supplies. I think we also value real information and ultimately our free will. If we're not too careful, we'll lose all of those things. This is Justin with I'm Your Aid Astrology. I'm not your coach. I'm not your guru. I'm not your guide. I am your aid. I'm your angel in disguise. I help you, empower you. Thank you.